can't hear you.
Now, they'll
Good evening and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the July 21st meeting of the Muscatine City Council. Thanks for joining us tonight. Fran, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmembers Raywald.
Present.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
Natfig.
Present.
Saucedo.
Present.
Bynum.
Present.
Harvey.
Present.
Spread.
Present.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here when I said the Grimmy. I think that letter from Roger was the Constitution.
Thank you, everyone. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address council about a subject that's not already on tonight's agenda? If so, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
I'm Jean Clark. Jean Clark. I live at 1221 Mulberry. I've lived there for 34 years. I'm also a retired educator. I'd like to speak to the council about the Muscatine Power and Water Board. I'm not talking about specific appointments. I just want to talk about that board. Several months ago, the council tabled the mayor's first recommendation for this board. Since then, I've talked to Councilman Natfig and Raywald, and I've communicated via email with Councilman Spread. All three of you indicated the MPW board should be lawyers, CEOs, or people with executive experience. I understand our large community industries are major consumers of our public utilities, and they should be represented on this board. But they should not be the only representatives on this board. Citizens of Muscatine who have a six-figure income who do not have a six-figure income are utility consumers too. They deserve representation on the MPW board. When you limit your MPW board to six-figure income lawyers, executives, and retired executives, you are limiting your board's perspective. In essence, you're telling Muscatine citizens who don't have six-figure incomes that they're too dumb. Your unwritten understanding of accepting only board members with executive or law backgrounds is elitist, and it's wrong. I plan to work to elect city council members who will change this kind of elitist attitude.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. Please take the podium. State your name and address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Albright, 4908 Abrams Drive.
I lived out in the country now, but I've been annexed into the city. And I've lived in the city for a lot of years. A lot of you people know me out there, so out there in the audience and everything. I come from a background with the YMCA, and Mayor Morrison, you know it. I've got 55 years of volunteer. What I want to talk to the board tonight is about volunteer. When somebody out here volunteers to go on what she just mentioned, the light board, or any other kind of commission, that person is what? A volunteer. He or she is giving up her time and her talent. And I'm going to do it real quick. Mr. Sussex, a lot of you know, was the director of the YMCA. He was my mentor. And years ago he said, Bill, a volunteer is a person who gives of their talent and their time and their energy. They don't expect any monetary or any thanks or flag. So when you think about that, that's what a volunteer is, and that's what I think you, as the council, should think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albright. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Please state your name and address.
Roger Roth, Clark House. Everything I'm saying is going to be without prejudice, without malice, without slander. Mr. First Ward, during the special meeting, you were doing all kinds of antics while the mayor was speaking like an imitation. Please, that sounds like a 10-year-old. We don't need that anymore, please. As concerning this part that I am coming to, I'm going to read what I wrote to Mayor concerning Second Ward Alderman. It is brought to this Clark House floor representative that Mr. Reinwald, our Second Ward representative, allowing his dog to, quote, unquote, fertilize in the courtyard of the courthouse site presently being property of the federal government, that is, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. We have had problems in the past that have been ironed out with the tenant dogs. It does not need outside persons, including those from the city's elected personnel, by Mr. Reinwald's example, to okay any person not living at the Clark House to also take such liberties to have their dog to also fertilize said property. For to dispel any thought that 117 West 3rd Street is city property, he must be reminded that under the present interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, it was the federal HUD and not the city of Muscatine, Iowa, that bought the property. It is now that the Clark House and the city only, and I say this to help the general public in terminology, special power of attorney, still under the rules engendered by said federal identity, including the pet rules thereof, that the outside pets is noted on the front doors to exclude all non-tenant pets access to the Clark House property. I, myself, has also witnessed this travesty done by this elected official. And for reasons noted above, this elected employee of the Second Ward must consider those that are his employer and creditors in the Second Ward in the city of Muscatine, Iowa, living across the street for him, to honor their concerns and the rules so established and cause his doggy to fertilize elsewhere, if it means to do so on the property he now is rent. The update is, since the mayor talked to you on the 14th, we have not seen you there, and we show our gratitude to the same.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Is there anyone else who'd like to address council tonight?
Good evening, Council. Greg Jenkins with the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we are now countdown to RAGBRAI. We will, between now and Saturday morning, welcome about 1,000 visitors into the community who will park their cars to head west to start back to Muscatine, arriving next Saturday, or the 30th, rather. And we're really excited about that, and we have had a great group of volunteers. Thank you for the good segue, because that's where I'm heading with this, is that great folks have helped us get to where we are today. It's going to be crowded and messy, but there is a plan in place, and things are coming together very nicely. And I'm here to ask the citizens of Muscatine to consider volunteering. We're something short about 100 people right now of what we'd like to have in place to welcome our visitors into the community and help them find their way and provide them the information they'll need when they get here. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Greg.
Where do they contact? Who do they contact? That's why I'm here.
Please call Phil Fitzgerald.
He has a list.
I'm sorry. If you go to ragbraimuscatine.com, you'll be able to find the location for which to go and volunteer for to sign up for volunteering or contact United Way, because they're handling it for us. Thank you.
I deserved that.
And you can always call United Way, who always is looking for volunteers and placements of where to put them. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move on with tonight's agenda. We'll move straight to number 5, the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda.
Mayor, I move that we remove from the consent agenda 9D, David, and 9J.
Is there a motion?
Don't need a second. You don't need one.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Yes. The consent agenda? Sure. The consent agenda is going to be items 6A through B on your agenda. So if you go through your agenda and go to 6A through B, items 9A through J, and we will hold back 9D and 9J to talk about when we're done. And items 12A, and tonight's bills totaling $2,163,397.99. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries with 6 ayes and 1 nay. Now we're going to move on and talk about 9D and 9J. 9D is a yes.
That we table 9D, items 9D and 9J.
I'll second that.
Table 9D and 9J.
Discussion?
No discussion on the table.
We can still discuss stuff that's going on the table, so that the other side can have a chance to talk as well.
According to Robert's rules. Ceases all discussion. Calls for a vote.
According to the Roberts rules that I read, there can still be discussion.
Who's got a copy?
We have parliamentarian.
I was going to say, Mayor, we have council rules that trump, and also the Iowa Code that trumps. Generally, unless you've specifically adopted Robert's rules and those Robert's rules about tabling, you follow the standard procedure, which is as outlined by Councilmember Nate Bigg. Once a motion to table has been made and seconded, typically that's the end of it, and it's a call for a vote at that time.
So even though it says that we follow Robert's rules for council, there's another spot that says that we do this differently for tabling?
Mayor, there's about 14 different sets of Robert's rules, so
Okay.
that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Unless it specifically identifies,
Which one?
yeah.
All right, moving on to
You have a vote.
11A. Pardon me?
We need to vote on the table.
On your table? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm sorry. We've got some noise over here. He's squinting.
Are you hearing?
I've got it in my ear. We're getting some feedback or something that's driving me nuts. I don't have too far to go.
Short trip.
Yeah, short trip.
Feedback from the microphone and the
Stop for
television station.
Can we move that microphone off to one side or the other, or see if that's it?
That's on its own frequency by the FCC.
Okay.
I don't hear it. Do you, Phil, up there? Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Are you guys hearing it over there?
Have you? Really?
Your microphones aren't working. I think it sounds like here.
Is this better? Okay. Apologize.
That's driving me nuts.
We're going to go ahead and go on, even if we have some noise
I
background.
did not hear the vote.
Okay,
Let's redo the vote.
all right.
Pardon?
So Phil made a motion to table,
Right.
I know.
or I'm sorry, Scott made a motion to table.
Second. And we're-
Scott made a motion,
Table and what? Which ones?
Both.
Scott Ingstad. Scott Natvig made a motion to table item 9D, which is a request to approve the appointment of Henry Marquardt to the Civil Service Commission.
And the other, which one?
And the other one was 9J, which is a request to approve the appointments of Robert McFadden and Gary Mowell to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
And all the other ones are approved.
Yes.
The other ones are approved, and Phil seconded Scott's. And so now I need to know, all in favor of tabling and not approving these volunteers tonight for service, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
So we're approving 7, and we're just tabling 2. Okay.
We already approved the
So we
others.
have Alan and Bob are nays for not accepting the volunteers. Okay. We're going to move on to 11A. We have a discussion by the city attorney related to the appointment and removal powers as contained in the city code. At this time, the city attorney will discuss this matter with council. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up, if, I'm sure you all recall, to the April motion the council made to look into revising the appointment process, and then following it up with the June meeting that we had. What you have before you tonight, I'm going to talk about 3 things, but really there's only one actual action item in front of you tonight. What you have is there's some changes to the appointment process under Titles 1, 2, and 6 of the City Code. There's the creation of a nominating committee after, if you were to decide to make the changes to the code. There'd be no need for that committee, obviously, if you decided not to make the changes. And then there's also an amendment to the council rules. And the way your council rules are stated is, if you're going to make a change, you have to present them the week before you would vote on them. And I do want to just kind of quickly address the council rules and the nominating committee. The council rule, there's a change. We changed the city code a few years ago. We changed the numbering for special meetings. And so this change to the council rules that you'll be asked to vote on at the next meeting would be to correct the old numbering that's in the council rules to make it consistent with the new code. So it's a change, but all it really is updating the code provision, the code citation. It's specifically, there's a provision in your city code that allows the council members or the city administrator to call a special meeting. When you updated the city code, that got renumbered, but the old numbering is still in the council rules. So it's not an intent or significant change to the council rules. Again, that's in your packet, but not to be voted on tonight. The other thing that we would recommend you wouldn't vote on right now would be the nominating committee. And that was the committee, I believe it might have been Councilmember Natvig or Councilmember Fitzgerald who had proposed the idea of having a group of, and what's been proposed would be 4 individuals, 2 council members, the mayor, and the city administrator or their designee meeting to come up with the appointments for you, then the council, to act on in early January of a given year. Again, depending on what you decide to do in changing in Titles 1, 2, and 6, there may be a reason to act on it as written, there may be reasons to modify it, or there may be no reason to act on it at all. So it was our recommendation that you just hold off till you decide whatever you'd want to do on the ordinance, and then we can adopt that then. That's being adopted by resolution, and you wouldn't need the 3 readings that you would on the ordinance. So with regard to the changes, I want to just briefly remind you of what those are. And I'm going to scroll till we get there. I'm going to go in numerical order. That some of these might be a little bit confusing out of order, but I'd rather follow in an order. We're going to start with Title I, There's one change, and that's to Chapter 11, and that one would be changing the appointment of or the nomination of the police and the fire chief from the mayor, as it is right now, to the city administrator, since those are the two city employees that currently aren't being appointed by the city administrator. Title II, there are a couple of changes. In general, Title II is concerned with the boards and the commissions except for the library board. If you'll remember when we talked in June, the library board would be something that would have to go out to a vote of the citizens to make that change. So all the other boards and commissions except for the library board would go from the mayor appointing and the council approving to the nominating committee, again, the mayor, two of you, and Gregor as designee, appointing and the council approving. Specifically, Title II, Chapter 11, that would be changed to give the council power for all external boards on which the council has a representative. There are some 28Es to which you're appointed, or other boards or commissions that might have their own rules, so obviously their rules would control this, but generally speaking, any external boards on which a council would be representative, it would be the council would appoint and approve, or this nominating committee would appoint and approve. Title II, Chapter 12, that would be a new chapter, and that would be the annual organizational meeting you guys had talked about in early January, or as soon as you can get it, where you would review the recommendations of this nominating committee, and the council would vote to approve or not approve at that time. And then Title VI, there are a couple of changes to Title VI. Title VI, Chapter 1, again, it's changing the chief of police from mayor to city administrator. That is in two sections of the code, so we changed it both. Title VI, Chapter 1, we removed language in there requiring the police chief to get approval from the council before hiring. That's never been the city practice. It's never been required by law, and we noticed it as we were going through this. And he would be, essentially at this point, the only department head would be doing that anyway, and he's not doing that. We'd prefer that either you guys make him start doing that, or we make the code consistent with the actual practice. And then Title VI, Chapter 1, one other change. And this is another one that I'm not certain is actually being followed, so we would recommend that it would be going forward. But if you make the change to have the chief of police being appointed by the city administrator and directly reporting to the city administrator, there'd be a change that the police chief would give an annual report to the city administrator. It's kind of a lot of gobbledygook, but the 3,000-foot overview is that other than the library board, this would take the appointment process from the mayor and put it in the hands of the nominating committee. And the way it was structured, and again, you're free to do however you want, it would be the mayor, two of you, and the city administrator or their designee. Any questions? I know that was a lot of information, and I know you do have the changes in your packet, but Code of Ordinances are not always the easiest thing to read.
Matt, if the city administrator appoints the police chief, fire chief, and the finance director, those are subject to council approval.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question. Since I'm not an attorney, can you please explain to me how this code and this revision to the ordinance adheres to Iowa Code Section 400.1 that says in cities having a population of 8,000 or over and having a paid fire department or a paid police department, the mayor shall appoint the civil service commissioners?
Well, and Mayor, you paraphrased that section. That talks about the initial appointment when the civil service was created. You have to, the mayor at that time has to give a specific notice. I think it was at that time 30 or 60 days, if you have the code in front of you.
Yes.
And then the mayor appoints. That is historically taken to mean when the commission was created, whether 20s or 30s, that procedure was to be followed.
So it was the very startup.
Correct, Mayor.
However, it says 1980, so it's...
So then 1980 when it was created.
Okay.
I mean,
Matt, you have a history of other cities that you represent, that you've worked with, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay. When you think about creating this group that's going to allow us to have more representation possibly of the council and the mayor, and potentially the city administrator or a designee, or maybe even somebody from the commissions. How is that examples of other cities? Are we some completely off base of what we're proposing? Or is this something similar to other locations that you've represented or you've seen that say, hey, this allows us to have a little more skin in the game, to have more representation, to not just give one person an opportunity to make that appointment?
What I would tell you is kind of what we talked about 1 or 2 meetings ago. With 900 cities in Iowa, they're kind of all over the map. And you historically see cities going to, as you put it, more input, and then they'll do that for a while, and then they'll swing back to less input. We have, I wouldn't say that we have a lot of other clients who are making this exact change, but we tend to see that citizens and governments in general are trying to get more input than less input. But in terms of like these exact changes, I don't think I've had a client who's done that in the last year or so.
Matt, I do have one question for you. The question is that the ordinances that are currently on the books ruling us, when were they written?
At various different times, but the last time they were completely overhauled and updated was it 2012 or 13?
City Code?
City Code.
City Code was effective July 1st.
My concern is when were the original appointment ordinances written?
They could have been written at various times because the committees were created at various different times. So honestly, I'm sorry, I couldn't go, I could go back and find out for you, but I don't know when each one was written because it would be written around the time the library board ordinance would have been created around the time the library board was created. But if that's something you'd like me to check, I certainly could do that for you.
Right at this time, I'm kind of hazy on why do we need to change something that isn't truly broken. We have a new mayor that started January 1 of this year. She should be entitled to a few stumbles. All I'm asking is that we need to educate her, possibly send her to some school of some sort or some session being put on by the League of Voters. And we wouldn't be spending all this money and all this talk and all this time on changing something that may or may not be broken. Personally, that I believe that the mayor at her last city council meeting was not embarrassed, but they really came down very hard on her, stating this, and this, and this, and really didn't give her any time to have a rebuttal or preparation for a rebuttal. In turn, that conversation that we had at the last city council meeting should have not been held in front of the public. If there's a problem, we need to go one-on-one or 7-on-1, not gangbusters. And that's all I want to say at this time. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If not, there's one other thing I would like to point out, just kind of how the process works. Depending on what you would decide to do, at the end of, if you do anything, you would have the 3-reading process or waiving part of the process. At the end of that time, the mayor afterwards, if the mayor wanted to veto it, she would have 14 days to veto it, and then you would have 13 days to override that veto. But I had gotten that question, and I thought I wanted to clarify that just in case the mayor or anyone else had any questions about that.
It was my understanding that I could veto it after the first reading, second reading, third reading, and up to 14 days after the last reading.
Well, Mayor, until it's adopted, it's not an official action. So, I mean, I would tell you that it's after the third reading, but that would be my reading of the code, is that you'd need to wait till it was officially adopted, because otherwise you're vetoing an action that hasn't occurred yet. But in any event, that gives you the longest period of
The
time.
direction put out from League of Cities was you could do it at any time throughout the process, but I understand your position, and I also thought there was, council had up to 30 days following the written veto in order to override the veto. I couldn't understand what you said. Did you say 30 days?
Well, apparently I didn't say it clearly. I apologize, Mayor.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, they do
Okay,
have 30
thank you.
days. And there is a little wrinkle if you've talked to the league. Your council rules are slightly different than the league. The veto has to be in writing under the state code. It has to be in writing and give forth explanations under the council rules. So that is a little wrinkle.
I did understand that part.
And Mayor, I apologize that I was mumbling.
It's all right.
Matt, do all these sections, changes, et cetera, does one depend on the other? Could we take them one at a time, or do they have to be as a group to make sense?
The issue would be all of these changes involve a nominating committee replacing just the mayor. And so if you were to adopt just some of these, we'd be passing this nomination committee resolution multiple times. Because we would first pass it when you do Title I, then we pass it when you did Title II and amend it, and then we'd pass it again if and when you did Title VI. So the reason they're all kind of mushed in once is to make it easier for you to pass the nominating.
Okay, so all of them have to occur, or we could not have a nominating committee?
What I would say is you would probably want to decide which ones you want to do and do those. You don't have to do them all, but if you do, let's say, one but not the other two, then before your next meeting, I would fix the nominating committee resolution to reflect that. If you decided to do all three, the committee resolution's fine the way it is. It's one of those where I think you're better off making your action all at once, but it doesn't mean you have to approve it all or approve any of it, if that makes sense.
What was the logic, I guess, behind the committee being the mayor, the city administrator, or his designee, and 2 council members versus 1 council member?
The thought process was, very simply, we went around and checked with some other municipalities, and the ones that had the committees, some of them had just one, some of them had one less than a quorum of council members, and a bunch of them had 2. And so it was just, let's get a draft in front of you, and if you guys feel more comfortable with 1 council member, that's just fine. But there was no legal reasoning that it had to be 2 council members.
I was just thinking there might be the perception that we're loading it with council members.
Going back to your time frame, then, if we're having 3 readings of this ordinance and then 14 days to veto and then another 30 days after, it could be October before these slots that are unfilled get filled. Potentially.
If the entire amount of time is taken, then yeah, that we would have roughly 45 days from the third reading, Mayor.
Anything else?
Let me ask, just for my clarification, this first set that we will vote on tonight, that doesn't set the membership of the committee?
No, that committee resolution isn't in front of you tonight at all. We just wanted to make sure that you guys could make whatever actions you took and not have to try to sync everything up tonight, that what you want to do, if anything, we can correct that nominating committee. And also, to your point, if you decide you want the representation made up differently, you want more or fewer council members, you want to do something different, that would also be, if there's direction you want to give me tonight, I can make sure, if and when you ever address that nominating committee, we can make those corrections.
So we're just considering right now that we want to form a committee without designating the membership.
Correct.
Your Honor,
But we, go ahead.
if I could, you can't adopt the resolution until after the council, if the council chooses to make the code changes, the resolution can't be adopted until after the code changes are adopted.
Correct, but that's all we're doing is trying to adopt the code changes and
Action on the
then.
resolution for you tonight.
Councilmember Salcedo.
But to be clear, we did discuss, I mean, we want a variety of representation from this committee. And in my history and beliefs, I believe that really having more than just one individual make the appointments, having more of a representation to help and get that, I think you would have a better opportunity to get the best candidates for every position that's a volunteer position. So, go ahead.
Can you tell me if you know of any consequences that we might have in leaving the Civil Service Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment not full until potentially October?
Nothing beyond what, I mean, they've already been vacant. So generally speaking, we still have quorums on all those boards and they can still meet. That's the issue. If, let's say we had civil service, we had 2 vacancies, that would be a problem because we couldn't meet. And by law, if someone is disciplined and they want to challenge the discipline, we have timelines as to when the board has to meet. But if we lose another member off civil service, or if we lose enough members that we don't have a quorum off the other board, that would be the only potential for, I wouldn't even call it liability, but that would be the only issue that would concern me from a legal standpoint, Mayor.
Any other questions? Moving on to 11B. First reading of the ordinance amending appointment and removal powers in Title I, Chapter 11, Title II, Chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and Title VI, Chapter 1, and adding Chapters 11 and 12 to Title II. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second? Who seconded?
I did.
Any discussion? Santos, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bob?
Nay.
Alan?
Nay.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Moving on to 11C. City Attorney will make a presentation concerning the members to the council rules.
Thank you, Mayor. And I took that out of order. That was that minor change I mentioned before. You have it in your packet. Next week, you'll be asked to fix the council rules. So the citation for calling a special meeting is the same in the council rules as it is in the city code. It's a very brief presentation.
We'll move on to 11D. Presented for City Council's consideration is the second reading of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 1409 Wisconsin Street, which is formerly Garfield School. The property owners are requesting that 4.41 acres on the eastern end of the parcel containing the former school building be rezoned to S2 institutional office. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance as submitted?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to tell the public that depending on when you read the agenda in the supporting documents, that you might be confused that we are not tonight, everything's going to be S2. We're not going to include the M1 light industrial section. You might, depending on, like I said, when you read the agenda, some of it still had the M1 in it, but the resolution tonight is just for the S2.
I got some calls on it the first time when it was.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Santos?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries with all ayes. 11E, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the purchase of 201 Green Street related to the Mississippi Drive Corridor Project and accepting the quitclaim deed. A vacant property located adjacent to the 200 block of Green Street has recently become available, and the city has negotiated a proposed purchase with the owner of record. This property has been deemed appropriate and/or necessary for the Mississippi Drive Corridor project. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Santos?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Thank you. Before we move on to 11E, I've been notified that I neglected to let any citizens speak regarding some of the things we were talking about. Is there anyone that would like to speak regarding the ordinance change? I apologize. Please state your name.
My name is
and
Hal Green,
address.
1821 Hammond, retired pastor and professor, and I'm not a lawyer. As I understand it, and I speak as a friendly person to both the council and the mayor, though we've never met, it appears there's a power struggle. Let's be frank. I'm on the outside looking in. It appears maybe this can be amicably resolved, but there's a power struggle going on regarding whatever the mayor's powers and so forth. But what I want to ask is, as I understand it, Muscatine is a charter city, correct?
Special charter.
Well, all right. Home rule
same.
charter, same thing as Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. Now, I've asked a couple of lawyers, and I guess my question is, at what point do we, the citizens, have an opportunity to voice our opinion about any motions that the city council makes?
Very limited
Really?
under law, yes.
Okay. So we don't have a say regarding any change of venue regarding power structure, or whether we have a strong mayor, a mayor and city council doing it, city manager. I know that there are many different options in the state of Iowa and elsewhere. Okay, but my concern is I don't feel I have a voice, and others I know don't. So that I don't. Is that what you? So that the city council simply has the ability to change. Forgive me, just how it looks. I'm just being honest. Change the rules to take power away in order to absorb more power relative to appointments. Correct?
I'm not sure exactly what you said, but to answer your question, generally speaking, the citizens' authority is to elect the representatives and then to elect new representatives if they don't like what they've done.
Okay, so what about like a referendum, even at the time of election, to address that and have people have an opportunity to determine whether or not they want to change the manner in which, and I know you're volunteers, so please I don't want this to sound critical. I really not, Phil. Oh. But I've got concerns. Okay, could there be a referendum at the time at which we elect the next go-round so that we do have an opportunity to say, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as you said, Bob? Or do we have that? I guess I'm trying to understand what my rights and obligations are as a citizen of Muscatine. Help.
Can you explain to him what a
I'm
referendum
not
is
sure.
and how to do
Okay,
it?
in other words, could there be something at the ballot where we would have an opportunity? Do you approve the changes? Do you want there to be the same situation that I know we began in 1851 and we're at 166 years, and I don't know how many years it's been this way, but I've only been here 19 years and now it's being changed, and I don't understand the reason for the change, but it doesn't look good to me as a citizen as to what's going on. And I just want to know whether, at some point, as a citizen, we, as citizens, would have an opportunity to express our opinion about this motion, short of simply electing or re-electing city council members.
I mean, the short answer is there's nothing you could do to force that under Iowa law other than, as you pointed out, or as we mentioned, appointing or electing new people who want to have the government the way that you want it.
Next question. Okay, under Iowa law, but as I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer, having the home rule charter means that we have greater freedom. We don't necessarily have to follow the state rules, as opposed to a general ordinance, general city, what is it called? General law city. I'm trying to get these things right. So that we do have greater flexibility in
You
how
may
we
have, yeah, the city has some differences between, but the answer to to your question is still no, you wouldn't have the ability to go and put something on a referendum or put it on a vote or call a special election.
Okay, well then let me say in sum, please don't change things. Work together, find a way, work it out. I've spent hundreds of hours doing marriage therapy. Seriously, grow up, get over it, work it out. Don't change. It doesn't look good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Is there anyone else? Mrs. Clark?
Jean Clark, 1221 Mulberry. I would like to reiterate that I think you've been given some good advice by a citizen of Muscatine. And I would also like to say that if you go to a nominating committee, I get to vote for councilmen and councilwomen at large, none of the rest. So if I have any say in who's picking, who's going to be on commissions, I sure to goodness hope you only let it be the council people at large who are on that, because they're the ones that we all have some say on. The rest of you council people, I don't get a vote for you. I can't vote you out of office. I'm not in your district. So keep that in mind if you go to a nominating committee. However, I would also like to say, is there anything in the law that says that a council can wait and put it before their citizenry as a vote? Do we want to change or not?
I mean, generally speaking, the authority of the city is rested with the council, and if the council decided to put certain items up for a special election and pay the cost, I don't know that there's anything expressly prohibiting that, but that's generally not something I've been asked to research, so I couldn't tell you tonight
Okay.
if that is. But
So it's, the council could say, we would like you to research that, and it could be voted on at our next general election where we are voting on council members. Our next city election, we could also have a referendum at that time saying whether or not we want to change our structure. Possibly.
the council can
Council
certainly
can do
direct
that.
me to do that
Okay.
if they want.
And so I would say, council, I agree with Hal Green. You know, it looks like you guys can't get along, and you're just trying to change the rules, and it doesn't look good. And I hope you let the citizens have some say and wait and put it before a referendum.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark.
I'm Linda Reichert, 3402 Tipton Road. I am a citizen. I want to vote on those folks that are on the nominating committee. And I'm sorry, the city administrator, I cannot elect him. I cannot vote against him. He should not be on that committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Reichert. Is there anyone else? Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's not.
Linda Smith, 913 Newell Avenue. I have to agree with Linda Reichert. I do not believe the city administrator has any place being up in the nominating committee. And I don't believe there would be a nominating committee. Things have been running smooth the way they are, and they should stay exactly like they are.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one comment, or make one comment. When I proposed the committee, I suggested that maybe it be the mayor and a couple council, and I did not specifically state that it would be the city administrator. What I was looking for was a member, the person, for instance, Stephanie Romanoli's in charge of the Civil Service Committee. She would be the one to set in as his designee So we have someone that knows what the committee's supposed to be doing, what their responsibilities are, and then they would be able to help with the selection. And there would be 3 members then to take a vote.
Ma'am, if you're going to talk, I need you to come up to the podium so we can hear you for our folks at home.
Why go to all of the bother of everybody trying to get their schedules together to decide an issue? Let things go the way they are. They're working fine.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Your Honor. And just in response to Councilmember Fitzgerald, and this is the language that would allow you to do that.
Greg?
With a designee.
This is the proper language that would allow you to do that, city administrator, the designee. So if it was Planning and Zoning Commission, you know, Andrew could attend, or Civil Service, Stephanie could attend, or in their absence, I could attend, or the department head could attend, and depending on the various boards and commissions.
Right.
So. The language as proposed in the ordinance, city administrator or designee would allow the planning and zoning staff member, the civil service staff member, or the staff member that attends those meetings, attend the council subcommittee.
We'll move on. 11F, presented for City Council's consideration, is a resolution releasing a real estate mortgage under the 2009 Community Development Block Grant Owner-Occupied Residential Rehabilitation Program for 1828 New Hampshire Street. The property owner participated in the 2009 Presidential Rehabilitation Program in 2010, receiving the maximum of $24,999 in funding assistance through a 5-year forgivable loan. The mortgage was signed on August 13, 2010, and the project completed on January 6, 2011. 20% of the loan has been forgiven annually on the anniversary date of the completion of the project. The entire $24,999 debt has been forgiven. It is now necessary for the City Council to take action releasing the real estate mortgage. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So move.
Bob and Scott seconds. Any discussion? Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Santos?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Thank you. 11G, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to accept the low bid for concrete crushing. 2 bids were received, with the low bid from Bushman Excavating of Fairfax, Iowa, in the amount of $5.47 per ton. The total amount of the work, which includes mobilization to the Public Works lower lot, will not exceed $50,000. There is $50,000 budgeted for the work. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Any discussion?
Please, Greg, there are a couple of mounds of tailings, shall we say, down at the airport. Is that going to be part of this and removed? And
The Public Works Department has been working with the city engineer and the project to relocate much of the material that we can reuse for the city and for Mulberry. And city engineer can certainly address the specifics, but
I don't think we own that.
What's that?
I don't think we own that,
On what?
those tailings.
the airport?
Yeah.
I don't, is that correct?
Mayor, Council, first of all, I would like to get to the first question. The big piles of recycled concrete and asphalt at the airport. Here I am, not sure I can remember the question, but are not part of what was just read. That's a whole different animal. Those were crushed at the airport, and those are required by the FAA to be trucked off of that site And so the city will remove those from the site, but we will also use those to our best advantage.
It's already been crushed.
It's already been crushed, already been taken care of.
And furthermore, Jim, some of the stuff that was crushed down there was reused in the base of the.
Correct.
With FAA.
Yes, absolutely. The base underneath that new airport runway was recycled concrete, and some of the material that's left remaining out there is going to go for a base underneath some new T-hangers when the time comes, and also to fix up the roads, access roads around in that airport. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor, say aye.
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 The request is approved with all ayes. Excuse me. 11H, presented for City Council's consideration is a request from the Traffic Committee to replace the traffic signal located at West 8th Street and Roscoe Avenue with a stop sign. Effective August 23, 2016, Washington School will no longer be used as a school by the Muscatine Community School District. Due to the school's closure, pedestrian traffic around the school is anticipated to be much lower. The removal of the traffic signal will be done by Muscatine Power and Water at no cost to the city. However, the city will be responsible for the installation of the stop sign at the intersection. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
So, just basically, I mean, the committee basically goes in and says, hey, the school's gone, we're taking the light away?
The Traffic Committee is made up of several members, including representation from the school district, and reviews multiple requests for signage or whatever that come, or parking that come before the city. They make a recommendation to the city council, and the school does have representation on that.
But that'll only be a stop sign
Correct.
On Roscoe.
on Roscoe, but then
Not
not
eight.
on 8th Street. Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Request is approved with all ayes. 11H, presented for City Council's consideration is, oh, we already did H. 11I, request to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for a truck for park maintenance. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the purchase of a truck for park maintenance. 4 bids were received, with the low bid from Krieger Motor Company in the amount of $54,164. There is $60,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Your request is approved with all ayes. 11J, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for a mower for the cemetery operation. 17 bids were received for this purchase, with 9 meeting the minimum requested bid specifications. Staff is recommending the approval of the low bid from Iowa Farm Equipment in the amount of $8,499. There is $10,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Bill, second.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry, who made the first?
Tom? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The request is approved with all ayes. 11K, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the amendment to the retail sales and service agreement and lease with Peter Troost Monument Company, doing business as Iowa Memorial Granite Company, for Greenwood Cemetery. The requested amended change is the extension of the agreement by 2 years, July 1st, 2016 through June 30, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Request is approved with all ayes. 11L, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve an amendment to the Business Office Operations Agreement with Peter Troost Monument Company, doing business as Iowa Memorial Granite Company, for Greenwood Cemetery. The requested amended change is the extension of the agreement by 2 years, July 1 of 16 through June 30 of 16.
Mayor, that should be 2018. I made a typo.
Well, yeah, 2 years. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So move.
We got Bob, and then Scott is a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Request is approved with all ayes. 11M, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the 16-17 deer hunt within the city of Muscatine. If approved, this year's hunt will again be for bow hunting on approved private property of 2 acres or more. Property owners may combine parcels to reach the 2-acre minimum. The hunt will begin September 17, 2016, and end January 10, 2017. Is there a request or a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have just a quick question. Have these hunts been beneficial for the city park system, et cetera?
Good evening. On average, we take about 40 deer through this hunt. We have 3 zones in town, A, B, and C zone. The C zone, which is the northern part, has more deer than the southern parts of our community does. So we are seeing less traffic accidents out there. We are seeing less disruption to our plant life and our park system. However, we are in eradication, not in eradication, we are in a maintenance phase according to the DNR. So 40 deer a year is our average, so we're meeting the average they want us to meet.
I would assume that if we don't harvest them, then they get overpopulated and
Well, correct.
damage property and/or get themselves in trouble, so to speak.
Is this for crossbows as well, too, or is this just straight bull bow when you see?
Oh,
you
that's a
have them do
good
the test?
question. I believe the ADA requirements with handicap accessibility with DNR does allow for crossbow, but they have to have a certification from the state to do that. I believe that to be fact.
Thank you, Rich.
You're welcome.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Request is approved with all ayes. 11N, presented for City Council's consideration is a request from the Police Department to approve the purchase of a video server for the interview room. As part of this purchase, a camera mic system will be moved to the new interview room. 3 vendors were contacted. The quote from FSS in the amount of $8,854.50 includes the cost of moving the camera mic system and the ability to switch the microphone on and off. The cost of this purchase will be paid through the forfeiture fund account. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion?
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't hear the second.
I did the second.
Bill?
I'm telling you, this air conditioner.
Alan, did you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering, is this any more than a high-capacity hard drive desktop computer that records these?
These days, you don't use a computer to record video that is critical to the operations. You need redundancy, just like we have servers for all computer operations that stores critical documents and such. It has redundancy built into it. If you have a hard drive fail, you don't lose everything that's there. And there's a backup system to it. This video server will replace a standalone DVR, which is kind of what you're talking about as a computer with a large hard drive. That hard drive is known to fail. If we lose that hard drive, everything is gone. You can't recover it. Everything is gone. The server, which, from talking with a number of people in the industry, it's set up in a RAID compliant, and it will back things up as it goes. So if we have a hard drive failure, there's 4 other hard drives that'll have that on it. And then there's also a tape mechanism backup that the IT manager does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Request is approved with all ayes. 11O, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the contract settlement and termination agreement for the Muscatine Mall Development Agreement. The three parties to the development agreement no longer have any ownership interest in the Muscatine Mall and no ability to make improvements to the property going forward. The existing agreement is considered a debt of the city and counts against the city's legal debt limit. The three parties have requested the settlement amount be allocated and paid to each of the parties according to the allocation in the settlement agreement. Additionally, one of the previous owners continues to own property adjacent to the Muscatine Mall, which is in the Mall TIF district. The owner has requested a new 10-year, 50% basic TIF agreement for planned improvements to those parcels using the base value of those parcels in the previous agreement. Rebates under the proposed new agreement would be subject to annual appropriate. Appropriate what?
Appropriations.
Got it.
It is appropriate.
Wasn't adding up.
To have an
Is
appropriation.
there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 The request is approved with all ayes. 11P, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the Chamber Commercial Dumpster Committee recommendation. As per presentations given at the May 12, 2016 and July 14, 2016 in-depth meetings, the City Code provides that City Council establish guidelines for collection fees to commercial customers. Could somebody please help her? Thank you, Greg. Staff is requesting City Council approve the rate schedule recommended by the Chamber Committee as the guidelines for rates for commercial customers with dumpsters. Staff is further recommending these accounts and the rate structure be reviewed again a year after the new rate guidelines are implemented. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to propose an amendment, please. My amendment is that the city exit the commercial trash business, and I'm not speaking of industrial or anything else, just the current customers we have, and not the customers that have just the little residential things, but customers who have containers. And the reason is real simple. It's not because we've proven to be not able to do it ourselves, but the reason is we should not be competing with the other 5 commercial firms in Muscatine who are in that business. It's just that simple. The city shouldn't be making pharmaceutical-grade alcohol or steel or anything, or agricultural chemicals, and we shouldn't be competing with these individuals either. 2 of whom have offices here, and the other 3 are in the Quad Cities. So what I would suggest is, one thing we want to do is to protect the waste stream. We want to continue to get 16% of the total waste stream comes from those containers. And we want to be sure that that continues to go to our landfill. So I suggest that we have some sort of permitting or licensing arrangement, and I know Greg has started discussions with Mr. Brick's firm about how to do that. And in order to get a license, one would agree to use our landfill. So we maintain the waste stream. We let private industry do what they are in business to do, and we should be able to eliminate labor and the truck and just concentrate on residential. Have I explained it? Any of you have questions about that, please?
So if we were to propose something and agree to something like that, the licenses, we would have to be able to have time to give these companies, opportunities to do this. There would have to be probably some sort of fees, I would assume.
Yeah, I would suggest,
licenses.
not worried about the fee for the license too much, but maybe to cover the cost of the lawyers. But hold in abeyance the issuing of the new rate card until we find out exactly how we're going to do this permitting or licensing, and then we can proceed with the schedule to phase out. Does that kind of answer your question then more?
I guess my only concern would be is if we were to do something like that, is you're proposing something to put it right within the next 6 months, a year? Are you proposing phasing out over 2 years?
I would propose that once we find out how we can do the permitting or licensing, that we would do a phase out over 60 days or 90 days, whatever, notify the customers that we will be ceasing it in 60 or 90 days, whatever seems to be fair. And they'll have plenty of time to make arrangements with other haulers.
Greg, what he said, which was, I was asking Greg, if what Mike said, which is a lot, is that inappropriate for an amendment or kind of a separate motion?
You could certainly do it as an amendment to the motion. I guess.
I guess as an amendment to the motion, I'd like to hear
Almost
the wording.
amendment by substitution, because you're almost eliminating
A
the
reverse
first,
motion, yes.
the first motion and going for the second, so.
Why would you do a rate schedule if you're not going to do it anymore?
I guess if I could
Please
respond a little bit. We've had a brief discussion, and licensing is a delicate issue, and it needs to be handled very appropriately, and I don't know that it's been done before in the state of Iowa, and Matt's father, Jim, is an expert in the topic, and so it's a difficult subject matter. It's certainly not something that's going to be done in the short term, and if something that the city council wishes to consider, it's a very delicate matter and would need to be thoroughly investigated with our legal counsel. The recommendation for you tonight is to follow the committee's recommendations over the next year and see where we stand. I don't know why those couldn't be done in conjunction, and see where we stand at the end of the year. And, you know, if it makes sense to get out of the business, it may make sense. I mean, we may lose business between now and the end of the years, as we've talked about it at our previous meetings, where it may simply make sense for us to get out of the business. Or we may continue to hold our own. We heard at one of those committee meetings from one of the local small businesses that it was a valuable service to those small businesses as well. So I understand the concerns. I understand the competition concerns as well. We have a small, it's a small business, 78 accounts, 73, 78 accounts. That's why the committee was formed, to take a look at the impact on those small businesses and to bring back something less than the original rate card that was proposed.
So tonight, perhaps we can look at approving the rate request that the committee is advising that we do, and perhaps at an in-depth down the road, we could talk about.
No, that's not what I'm proposing at all.
But point of order, you've got a motion on the floor to amend, but you are meant to amend the motion, but you haven't had a second, and we've had discussion to try to clarify what the amendment was.
We didn't even have a motion.
So if we don't have, I thought we had a motion on the floor.
He said that before I believe, before I ever even got a motion.
There's a motion. Motion to amend.
Right.
But we haven't had any second to that.
And we did not have a motion on this item, period?
Yeah, there was a motion.
Yes.
Second.
Yeah,
there was.
Phil and Bob made the original motion.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
So we have so at this point, I guess, if he can get a second to his amendment, we could continue discussion. Otherwise, it's a moot point and we're done.
Yeah, well, I propose that we proceed with the motion as written, and then, you know, if we want to investigate privatizing the commercial pickups.
It's not privatizing.
Well, whatever it is. But in the meantime, let's initiate this new rate structure.
They're not mutually exclusive. And waiting till the end of the year, this has already.
I don't mean to wait until the end of the year, just.
This has already been going on for a year. And I think that's probably enough. It's not mutually exclusive. They can send out the new rate card tomorrow. But I think the amendment to essentially get out of the business as soon as we can find a way to control the waste stream.
So if we second his amendment, we still have time to investigate, correct, Greg? I mean, we're not going to be able to make this.
What is it you want to know?
Well, obviously, what effect is that going to give to the small business owners? That drastic versus us trying to do it over a 12-month period of us saying that we want to give them an opportunity to investigate, because we're probably going to lose the business, but this gives us an opportunity to see how we can still continue to keep the waste stream going to us, to the transfer station versus of us losing it all like that, and then we're still having the effects on at the landfill, plus the transfer station and the income that we're losing on that.
If we send out the rate card today, and people find that commercial can do it cheaper, and they say, please, Waste
Correct.
Management, do my
Correct.
stuff,
Yeah.
we have lost control of the waste stream at that moment.
But we don't know that yet.
Well, yes, we do. As of today,
Well,
we
what
can't
I'm
tell
saying is,
Waste
we don't know if we're
Management.
gonna lose that many, though. That's what I'm getting at.
But,
No, we
but
don't.
can't we license at any time?
But
So-
if the,
I would say so. I'm a point of order here. We don't have a second to the amendment. If nobody's willing to second the amendment, we're done, and we go back to the main motion.
I'm just
there a
perplexed
second?
by it.
If you want to second the motion, we can have further discussion. Otherwise, let's
We shouldn't even be discussing it.
do
Without a
exactly,
second.
Mayor.
I'll second the motion.
okay, Mr. Brick, how long, it's not gonna take till the end of the
No,
year
I mean, we're gonna
figure
be able
this
to
out.
find out. And
For us to do the research, we could get back to you. We've already had some preliminary discussions, but to Greg's point, what we're doing is researching the few other states that have attempted this, because this has been attempted in the past in Iowa, and we want to be exceedingly careful to make sure it's successful. But Greg, I'm with you. I mean, it's,
It's a shot in the dark.
well, in just terms of time, I mean, what would you say, 6 to 9 months before?
For what?
For licensing.
To get the program you're talking about up and running.
I do not know that it's ever been successfully implemented in the state of Iowa.
What, a license? So it's new?
Yes.
Okay. And you're not saying it'll take you 6 to 9 months to come up with the language?
No, sir, but I'm saying, and effectively, we're at the end of July. So, I mean, we're gonna have some research, let's say that's a month, we get back, you guys are gonna wanna maybe tweak it, that's 2 months, and then you're gonna give notice, you just mentioned 90 days, there's 5 months right there. I'm just erring on the side of caution. I think there's always things that take longer than we expect them to do. I would tell you honestly, I think it would be, and Greg, I think you were shaking your head when I even said 6 to 9 months. So unfortunately, I do think it would take a little longer, because again, it's not as though we have a successful program that's been done in Iowa that we could be confident we know it would be upheld.
Yeah, all we want to do is protect the waste stream.
And it seems extremely easy, but unfortunately, the Iowa Supreme Court has made it very difficult for municipalities over the years.
I don't see a lot of harm in waiting, Councilman. I mean, if we may end up,
Waiting for what?
well, waiting to see how this structure ends up. I mean, you're likely right that we're not covering the indirect cost now, and it may get worse. But if it's going to take X amount of time to put anything else in place anyway, then
This new rate structure might
what's the
help.
harm in waiting to?
even with this new rate
Could be
structure, we're
surprised.
still subsidizing
Yeah.
the
we are.
current right now, what we got.
That's another reason that I offer the amendment.
So, I mean, this is just a Band-Aid in a sense, but
You know, I was part of the committee that talked about this. I think we should implement the rate card, but I also think we should give the city administrator direction to research the licensee option.
Or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the proper name should be. Okay, I'll buy that.
Which means what?
Which means you won't take as long as that, as you think, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it
I
will-
take direction from all of you, so if you say
It
sooner,
will
it will
take
be
as long
sooner.
as you set your.
Is that
You
a
wanna make
friendly
that
amendment to your amendment?
Yeah, no. If you say it'll take 2 months, it'll take 2 months. If you say it'll take 1 month, it'll take 1 month.
But currently,
Instance
right
law.
now, with this amendment, not with the amendment, with this first piece that we're trying to get passed, it's 60 to 90 days that we're providing for the customers, the current customers, to notice to them prior to the rate schedule being implemented. Is that correct, the way I'm reading this?
That's correct, and that does a couple things. One, that provides notice, but that also provides an opportunity to go outside and right-size containers, explain the program, and talk about recycling and those other opportunities as well. During the program and the presentation, you noted there was a significant number of folks that whose containers were not full. So if you have a 4-yard and you can use a 2-yard, or if you have a 2-yard, and perhaps we can do 2 residential style containers depending on the type of material. So it's about right-sizing the service, right-sizing the containers, and providing notice of a new rate structure.
And providing recycling containers that are more convenient for some of the locations.
Right, and we do have some in the downtown, well, we do not, but ESI has some, has been a great partner in the downtown, and perhaps Republic can as well.
I don't mean to be contentious here at all. This is not the intention. But am I missing something why it's a good idea for the city to compete with private enterprise?
It's the change. It's, how many years has it been done this way? That's probably the whole challenge that I think it probably brings about. And now we're coming up with a rate change, which is probably going to scare a lot of people, which will open our eyes to realize if we're really going to see that waste stream.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll convince a lot here to be able to say, yeah, we saw a big change here. We need to start making some restructuring. We need to look at privatizing or whatever as far as getting out of the business. Technically, it's not even a business. We should be making any money. It should just be breaking even, but I don't agree with subsidizing it because technically, in some sense, the businesses are they're getting a break right now and at the taxpayers' account, and it shouldn't be. So let's look at it 3 months from now and find out where we're at. That'll be the 60 to 90 days with the implementation. That'll tell us exactly who's out and who's in.
Okay.
Then I can completely think that everybody here is going to agree with what your recommendation is.
All right.
Okay.
So do we have to have 2 separate votes?
Yeah, why don't we, let me make a friendly amendment to Mike's motion and make it that simple that we, approve the rate card and implement the rate card, and at the same time give the city administrator direction to research and the licensing of commercial waste hauling in the city.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Any other discussion?
Was that a motion, Tom?
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
That was a friendly amendment to his amendment. So
All in
it's-
favor, say aye.
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 Request is approved.
Now go back to the initial motion.
Right.
As amended.
Now we have to approve the motion to approve the rate card.
It wasn't amended.
You approve the amendment.
So we already had somebody, who made the motion?
Phil Fitzgerald, Bob Bynum made the original motion.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Request is
Thank you.
approved. 11Q, presented for city
nays.
councils. Pardon me?
No nays?
No,
You didn't call for any.
I didn't hear any.
No,
I heard
there's no.
everybody say,
I
Yes.
do want to have one last discussion piece on this, so there's no nays. So as we start proceeding through this, can I ask that you bring us up to speed within the first 30 days if we've lost 10% or 20% of the business owners?
We'll keep a record as we go, and we'll certainly provide that.
So
to council.
that way it doesn't hit us on 90 days, we lost 50%?
Yes. We'll keep
I don't know if I'm
we'll
just
keep a
asking
running.
that.
We'll figure out exactly how we're going to do it, and we'll keep a running tally as we go.
did I not hear you say yes? Did you say
That's
nay?
correct. I didn't say.
Okay, I apologize. Nays.
Nay.
6-1.
Moving on, 11Q, presented for city council's consideration is a request to accept the remaining bid alternates for the Art Center HVAC and Building Envelope Improvement Project. The original contract with the Crawford Company for this project included the minimum recommended work by A&J Associates as funding for the full project with all alternates had not been secured. The Muscatine Arts Center Support Foundation has agreed to cover the unfunded portion up to $360,000 for these alternates. Staff is requesting City Council take action to accept the remaining bid alternates for this project. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Any discussion?
I've got one question for Melanie, I guess. Seems to me you're also doing some other fundraising besides, right?
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's
How's
correct.
that coming?
Well, we're in the early stages and trying to get the information out.
It's a campaign that will take pledges over 3 years, and we're beginning this in the middle of summer, so it's difficult to get everybody together. The idea is that we are trying to backfill the funds that the Muscatine Arts Center Support Foundation has put in. We've sent out invitations to informational sessions about a month ago to mostly local businesses, and now we're preparing a mailing to go out to a larger group of donors. So we're making progress and meeting with our fundraising committee.
When are those information sessions?
We had 3 back in June, and we are looking to schedule some more later, probably late August, early September.
How much have you raised thus far? How much cash is in the bank?
Well, it's going through the Community Foundation of Greater Muscatine, so I don't have an amount at this time.
You don't know?
Well, they're the ones who are tracking the funds at this time, and what's important for City Council is the Muscatine Arts Center Support Foundation is funding the project, so it's on us to make sure that that's backfilled.
Okay, Melanie, I appreciate what the work you're doing. How, have we had any other change orders besides the insulation issue that we had a while back?
You've got the next item on the agenda is a change order for a number of projects that they found while on site. Some of them were cost savings, and some of them were, yeah. So that's in the next item on the agenda.
And the progress is going well?
It is. We received an update from Crawford Company on Friday, and they are making great progress in the house, and we stage it so that they begin in the historic house and then work in the linkage in the Stanley Gallery, and then Carriage House is last in line. Some work has also been completed in the Stanley Gallery. A1 Geothermal just wrapped up yesterday, so that piece of the project is complete. But it's going really smooth. It's a very nice team of people to work with.
Melanie, I don't understand R, quite frankly.
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay, I thought we were talking about it.
We're not to the changes yet.
We're not there yet. When do you think that we would be able to start getting, you talked about the FIG being able to bring up some of the better, or I don't know how to word it, art that we can't get now?
As far as changing exhibitions, what we would
Yes,
have
as far
coming?
as exhibitions that we're not able to meet the criteria.
Right. So usually what happens is we fill out about a 35-page facility report when we wish to borrow works of art. And in addition to that, and that's everything about your mechanical systems, how old they are, it's your security, your lighting, everything A to Z. In addition to that, you provide a readout of your temperature and humidity. Most lending institutions, they want to see a year's worth of data on a new system. Wow. So we're working to figure out what we're going to be putting in exhibition, for changing exhibition for next year. We have some works in our own collection that have been recently acquired, and we're proposing to do an exhibition using that in the spring of 2017. And for a while we may still be working with exhibitions that are not, don't contain such highly sensitive materials, but it'll take time. We have to jump through the hoops.
Great, thank you.
This is as much about us protecting our own collection as it is bringing the visiting collections. It's all very important, right? So,
Just want to know when we're going to, when that time frame
Right.
is at. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Melanie.
you.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. Finally, 11R, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve change order number 1 for the Art Center HVAC building envelope improvement project. This change order totaling $51,500.75 includes requests 1 through 7, 11, and 13 through 17, which meets the contract requirements with the Crawford Company for accommodated changes in the scope of work. Requests 8, 9, 10, and 12 are deferred maintenance items at the Arts Center that will be handled outside of the contract. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor. Scott can have it.
Scott. Any discussion?
AJ, what does this mean?
While Vic's making his way up to the podium, I'll remind council that as part of the budget process, we have budgeted several deferred maintenance items to do throughout the year. Many of those were at the Arts Center and other locations, public safety, the fire apparatus room, but several of them were at the Arts Center as well. So we have an additional amount of money with the bond proceeds. We had over $200,000 in addition to that. For deferred maintenance as well. And Stan O'Brien with Public Works has been working with Public Works staff and getting quotes to bring, hopefully at the next meeting, to bring back at least a partial list of additional deferred maintenance items that we'll be able to do with the proceeds that we have. Okay. So that's several of those items Stan recommended taking out of the contract. We believe that we can do those cheaper and get more deferred maintenance done. The remainder of the items, I'll let Vic, the change order items, I'll let Vic address.
So 8, 9, 10, and 12.
We will do those outside of the contract under the deferred maintenance budget.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry I called you by the wrong name, Vic.
All right, so what was your question again, Mike? Just so I could go through each one of these, and I'd be happy to do that, explain them.
Just, the $51,500, that's in addition to what's already been agreed to?
Yes, that would be a contract change.
So the $360,000 we just approved is $51,000 short?
I don't know, did you just approve $350,000? I thought it was $145,000. Or $147,075.
Foundation.
That's the carriage house.
Well, that's what they just approved, wasn't it? That's the carriage house right here.
Yeah, this is on their agenda.
Are you talking
Going
about
through-
are you talking about the alternates?
Yeah. No,
That you just
no,
approved?
not the alternates they're talking about.
No, I understand, but he said is this in addition to the
Change order number 1 includes requests 1 through 7. Anyway. So
that total is $51,500.
and is that in addition to the $360 we just approved? Does the total cost of the contract go up $51,000?
Yes, it does. I don't know where the $360,000, that's not what the alternates were. I'm missing something.
That's the match.
Right now, I think there's 200, Melanie can answer this, but 200,000
Well,
of the
I
up
guess
to 360
I guess
is
what I'm just talking about contract change, and she's talking about funding.
Sure.
So the contract change for the alternates is $147,000. Those are the 4 alternates. So you accept those 4 alternates.
Yeah, it's 300.
You should just talk about contract change.
Okay, so the $360,000 is what's coming from the Muscatine Arts Center Support Foundation. Before the Arts Center Board of Trustees, we had $200,000 remaining to cover for what had been approved back in April, and we committed to raising those funds. So that's where we get at least $200,000. So that's where we're getting, Support Foundation has put that amount. I think if you look at the memo there that was attached, should be,
It's like 145, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
the recommendation is that the change order to the contract be $147,075 to include alternate 2A, 2B, 2C, and alternate 4. And that was the agenda item before.
Let me phrase it another way. Do you have the $51,000 to do this?
What's that?
Do you have the $51,000 to pay for this change order?
There's a spreadsheet that's attached as part of your memo.
Do you know, Greg?
Some of it is deferred
Yes.
maintenance. There's others that we had some soft costs built into the project.
For the deferred maintenance, some of the things we're finding that we're adding here were on that deferred maintenance list. It just made sense to do them with the contractor that was working on the roof above where they were doing it. For the deferred maintenance, we have a total, and some of it's designated, with the bonds selling at a premium. Well, the original bond issue, we had estimated for $120,000 for specific deferred maintenance items. When we did the bond issue, we added $200,000 to that. So we had $320,000 at that point. The bonds sold for a premium of over $200,000. So, and then we had some funds left over from the 2014 bond issue that was designated for the library. So that's kind of all rolled together. So we have $563,000 available for deferred maintenance. Some of that it's showing up as a contract amendment because we're doing it as part of the contract because it makes sense to do it with that contractor while he's there. Other things like they mentioned before, if we can do things separately, more roofs, that's coming out of this fund, but that $563,000 is intended to cover contract overruns plus other deferred maintenance. And some of those overruns are things that were on the master deferred maintenance list.
So the 51,000 he's talking about is covered.
It will be covered as part of this, and that one
That's all it-
spreadsheet
Right.
I
Great.
have attached kind of
That was
shows
the
that.
question. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, right.
Thank you,
And
Nancy.
Nancy, while you're up here, I got a question for you. He had mentioned that Melanie had mentioned that we just started getting the geothermal up. Do we qualify for any sort of rebates, tax credits, or anything once we start that system online?
Don't, Vic, did you check into that?
We did, no, you don't. Unfortunately, Muscatine County, the city of Muscatine has got this is what the state tells us, they've already received too much money for energy conservation as a county. So Muscatine County and the city of Muscatine are excluded.
Because we conserve so much?
Pardon?
We're being penalized because we conserve so much?
Well, no,
Okay.
But you had 3 or 4 grants already been awarded to the county, and they have to, their parcel and this out to the rest of the state.
So our tax credits went to the
What's-
county.
Well, I see you all in the county. Well, yes, I think so. So they got some very generous.
They used it first.
They got some very generous tax credits for their geothermal system.
We just didn't.
Pardon?
Okay, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. What about gas for windows? I mean,
I'm
as far
sorry?
as we get anything from a natural gas standpoint,
Alliant Energy.
from Alliant?
Yeah,
Windows
we
replacement?
could look at, but I think the problem with that is
Yeah.
the last time I checked with them, and we'll go back in, it's about $300 because what you're in essence doing are eliminating any gas. So if your bill was $10,000 a year, it's nothing. They're not going to give you a rebate to lose the customer.
I didn't know if it was all through all
No.
of the means, and that's fine.
It's
We work with Nancy Snod as our Aligned Energy rep, and we work with her on all of our building projects to ensure that we maximize or get any rebates that are eligible. She'll be coming this fall to present an update to City Council.
And I think the other thing you should know too, you would be eligible, that's not a knock on the utility company, but the investment is so big, the local utility doesn't have enough in their budget for rebates. They're more on the residential side, so because you're such a big
That's fine. I
customer.
was more from a state credit standpoint.
Yeah, and
I'm
with
around
that, we looked at that, and just unfortunately, the county of Muscatine is excluded because you've gotten so much. That's what they told us.
All right, last question.
Yes.
Any motion sensors at all?
Motion sensors?
I saw the electric you had on these change orders.
There's some motion sensors for some,
Lights or-
there's some motion sensors where the code requires it. It's a code requirement now, and for any new lighting that we put in, is it appropriate?
Just a comment while you're up there, it seems to me like you recommended the right contractor for this, because it sounds like they've made a lot of progress.
Well, actually, they're about 2.5 months into the job, and they're almost, they're between 40 and 50% complete.
Are you happy with them?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Well, as I said, the geothermal in the ground is finished. The only thing they have left to do with that is fill it with fluid, and they're gonna start using it here in about a month.
Tweaking.
Kind of expecting that to be, you know, September, November type of thing, so they've really done a nice job.
Good.
Thank you.
Glad to hear it. Glad you're there.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Request is approved with all ayes. Finally, moving down to communication. Tom, do you have anything tonight?
Yeah, and I have to be careful because I know we tabled the matter. But the agenda item affecting the zoning matters, if we put those two folks in, it appears we violate the gender balance requirements. And
We spoke with the community development, and they understand that. We've been out of gender balance in the past several times, and
But there
at
are-
the request of a couple of the the commission members, that a female had said she would stay on, and a male would go off. And when it got right down to brass tacks, they ended up flipping that on us. And I was told that they could make that work. It has in the past, knowing that the next appointment that comes up will need to be a female.
Isn't there
That
some
has been
sort,
addressed.
isn't there some sort of a requirement where we have to search for 90 days and demonstrate that effort before we can make the appointment?
I was told that we could make it work with what we're doing, with the understanding that the next one would be a female.
Greg, give us your,
There's a 90-day requirement that you make a good faith effort to find a female or male, depending on how your board is out of compliance. I guess I can't speak to the 90-day timeframe. I'm not really involved in the appointment process. But there is a 90-day good faith effort to try and find somebody before you make an appointment. And after that 90-day period, if you cannot find somebody, then you can make an appointment and put the board out of compliance.
what do we have, one too many or one too few, what?
We had a female decide to leave that had been going to stay, and a male decide to stay that had been going to leave, and that's what created the gender imbalance.
But doesn't that responsibility rests with the council, not with the department, right? I mean, it's up to us to make sure that we comply with the code. So that's my question is, have we done everything we should to comply with the code? And I think that's why things stopped where they did tonight, because we have no information to the contrary. We don't know what was
I
done.
went by staff's recommendation. I think that's
Well,
what council asked me to do.
And that's why I'm asking you. We didn't hear any of that. And
It
that's
got
why.
tabled, and I didn't get a chance to talk. I thought I could, remember? I would have explained it.
And I'm not sure I still understand it. I don't,
There's
there is a
some-
90-day
Dave,
provision.
can you enlighten it at all?
Well, there's simply a 90-day period from the, and over that 90-day period, you have to make a good faith
Right.
effort to find either a male or female, however you're out of balance. If after that 90 days you are unsuccessful, you can appoint somebody of the opposite
So
sex.
the question then becomes, how do you document that? How do you show that that happened?
Correct, and I don't know when that search began. I don't know how to I can't document that, but I'm sure the mayor could.
I can document it.
With it being tabled, could we
So-
not say that now we're doing the 90-day effort?
Well, it'd be a
So
point
the
in
mayor
the right
needs to
direction.
find, what, another female nominee?
Yeah.
On J. Okay. All right.
So I got, okay, trying to figure it out.
Alan, do you have anything?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Bob?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Santos?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Scott?
Just a comment, and that's why I added item 9, whatever it was, J.
Mhm.
Because I was told this just before the meeting began that was going to be an issue, so that was there was no other problem with the candidates, it was a technicality.
Are we on 12 or 14?
We're on comments.
We're on comments. 14, communication from council members.
14, okay.
Phil, do you have anything
Nothing.
tonight? Mike?
Yeah, I was curious about one thing. I noticed in something you'd written recently, you referred again to Leonard Waterman.
Who?
Leonard Waterman, you referred to him?
Recently?
I think in some written thing I read. Well, anyway, you quoted him. Did you see a speech or were in a workshop or?
Oh, I've had several different, I do HR, I've done several different,
I mean, with Leonard Waterman.
yes.
When was that?
Oh,
Roughly?
several years ago.
In the,
I do not know the date, Mike. Is there a point to this?
yeah, Larney was an old friend of mine. He died in 1986.
I've been doing this for a long time. And his organization still is current today in Iowa City.
He's been dead for 30 years.
Is that it? Do you have anything else?
No.
Staff?
Yes, Your Honor. I was given this afternoon, and it was apparently a little late to give you the opportunity to put together a proclamation, but the governor had put together a proclamation on the Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week for July 17th through the 23rd. John just asked me to note it tonight, and I'd certainly like to join in appreciation of our water and wastewater workers in Muscatine specifically. So.
Certainly. And I just have a few things. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Lutheran Services in Iowa. They had a very successful ribbon cutting today. They moved their location from the old post office to Grace Lutheran Church on Cedar Street. They've been doing services to strengthen families in the Muscatine area for over 25 years. Very good service to our community and people with disabilities as well. Secondly, I'd like to invite everyone to Coffee with the Mayor on Saturday at Happy Joe's at 9 o'clock. And lastly, I would like to, as CEO of the City of Muscatine, apologize to those appointments that have been put up that were not approved. I feel badly for them. Some of them were not approved. Some of the reasons were because perhaps they weren't educated enough, skilled enough in the particular area, and I just would like to point out that there are no requirements for skill level for any of the boards and commissions in our community. There are none for council. There are none for senator. There are none for congressman. Although these people all, including you've heard us tonight, approve bills totaling millions of dollars. What we expect is that the staff that work in whatever organization it is, whether it be Muscatine Power and Water or the different businesses, should bring to the board of directors, should bring to the council the information that they can make a decision with. My dad pointed out to me the other day, and I think it's worth sharing, that our complete government was based on the idea that the common man makes the best decisions. When you look at our government, who decides the most difficult decisions of our country? Who decides who gets put to death if they have been convicted of a crime? It's not a jury of scholars. It's not a jury of intellects. It's not a jury of big business. It's the jury of the common man. And I think it's easier for us to lose sight of that. If we look at our local government right here, when it gets down to the very basic, big, important decisions, it's not council who decides what the other council members are going to be. It's not council who decides who the mayor's going to be. It's the common man. Those are the people who make the best decisions, and we can expect that the people that work for us and bring those decisions to us, present us with the facts, and give us the opportunity, and the common man will make the best decisions. I think it's important for us to remember that as we move forward. I ask you to all please pray for your city
your council, your mayor, as we move forward, try to smooth things over in our community as well as we can. We're going to take a 10-minute recess as we prepare to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation. In recess.
That noise is still here.
Yeah, it is. It's very high pitched.